Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to Sleepy Science Teller, where science drifts softly and the wonders of our universe float gently through the quiet of night. Tonight, we'll sink into the deep blue to meet a creature so unusual that some say it never truly dies. There, beneath the soft sway of ocean currents, lives a small, nearly invisible being, no larger than your fingernail, known as Turritopsis dohrnii, or as it's more famously called, the immortal jellyfish. While most creatures follow a familiar path, birth, growth, and eventual decay, this jellyfish has discovered a strange biological loophole, a quiet defiance of the rules that bind all life. Before we begin our slow descent into the story, take a moment to share where you are listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always fascinating to imagine this quiet little community spread across time zones, sharing the same moment of stillness together. And if you'd like to keep wandering through the calm corners of science, please softly tap the like button and subscribe. Your support helps this little space of wonder continue to glow gently night after night, somewhere far below the waves, where sunlight fades into blue silence. A tiny creature drifts, unaware that it carries within itself one of nature's greatest secrets. It has no bones, no brain, no heart. Its body is clear, fragile, and soft, like a drop of living glass. If you reached into the water and held it in your hand, you might not even feel it resting there. It is so light, so delicate, that it seems more like a thought than a being. Yet inside that simple form lies something extraordinary, a biological mystery that whispers quietly of eternity. This little creature is called Turritopsis dohrnii, known to the world as immortal jellyfish. It moves slowly through the ocean, its bell-shaped body expanding and contracting with each pulse. Contract, release, a rhythm as calm as breathing. Its tentacles trail behind it like strands of silver silk, catching tiny morsels of food drifting in the water. But what makes Turritopsis dohrnii remarkable is not how it lives, but how it refuses to die. Most jellyfish, after floating and feeding and reproducing, eventually weaken, dissolve, and return to the sea. Their lives are fleeting, delicate arcs from birth to death. But not this one. When it grows old or injured or hungry, something incredible happens inside its cells. Instead of decaying, it reverses. The adult jellyfish transforms back into its younger form, the polyp, and begins its life again. It's as if the clock of time begins to run backward. The adult medusa becomes a child once more. The process can happen again and again in an endless cycle of rebirth. And so, in the quiet corners of the sea, this tiny creature drifts between beginnings, never truly reaching an end. When you imagine immortality, you might picture something powerful, a being that defies all laws, that conquers time itself. But the immortality of Turritopsis dohrnii is humble. It doesn't fight death. It simply slips around it. It doesn't demand eternity. It flows gently within it. Perhaps that's why it survived through ages unnoticed, while oceans rose and fell, while continents shifted, while countless other species came and went. This jellyfish, smaller than your fingernail, hold a quiet wisdom that life's greatest strength isn't resistance, but renewal. If you could follow the immortal jellyfish through the deep blue water, you'd find it living a life of calm rhythm. It moves slowly, never hurried, pulsing in soft patterns like the heartbeat of the ocean itself. It doesn't seek attention or light. It drifts where the currents take it, trusting the sea completely, under a moonlit surface. If you look closely enough, You might see it glowing faintly, not a bright light, but a soft shimmer, like a star breathing underwater. The sea is full of such quiet lives, plankton swirling like dust in the cosmos, tiny fish darting like shooting stars, and in the midst of them, Turritopsis dohrnii, the ancient traveler time. Long before humans ever named it, it had already discovered its secret, the ability to step backward through its own life, when it feels the world growing harsh. Perhaps the water too cold or food too scarce. It drifts downward toward the darker, calmer floor of the ocean. There, its body begins to change. Its tentacles shrink, its bell collapses, and it slowly folds in upon itself. What was once a graceful swimmer becomes a still, tiny lump of living tissue, resting quietly on the seafloor. And then it begins again. The cells reorganize, their identities changing, reshaping. Muscle cells become skin cells. Nerve cells become new tissues. It's as if the body remembers how to be young. Soon, from this resting state, small sprouts appear, the beginnings of new polyps. Within days or weeks, a fresh generation of medusae will bud from these polyps, ready to swim again. Each one is genetically identical to the original, yet entirely new. The same life reborn in a different form. Scientists call this process transdifferentiation, a rare and almost magical ability for cells to transform completely, becoming something else while remaining part of the same being. Humans can heal wounds, regrow some skin, even regenerate parts of the liver. But we cannot turn ourselves backward through time. The immortal jellyfish, however, does this naturally, effortlessly, as part of its design. It's not invincible. Predators can eat it, diseases can harm it, and accidents can end its existence. But biologically, if left untouched, it could live forever, not as one continuous body, but as a looping story, beginning, ending, and beginning again endlessly. There's something deeply soothing about this, isn't there? That somewhere beneath the waves, a creature exists that never truly dies. It simply transforms, renews, adapts. It has mastered the rhythm that all life strives for, not to outlive time, but to move gracefully with it. When scientists first discovered this phenomenon in the 1980s, they could hardly believe it. The initial observation happened in the Mediterranean Sea, where researchers noticed that their jellyfish specimens weren't behaving as expected. Instead of dying, they seemed to regress, shrinking, folding, and turning back into polyps. Over time, laboratory studies confirmed it. The cycle was real, repeatable, and astonishingly complete. This discovery sparked wonder across the scientific world. Was this the key to immortality? Could understanding this jellyfish lead to breakthroughs in human aging, regeneration, or disease? Researchers began studying the jellyfish's genes, searching for clues to how its cells manage to reverse their own aging process. What they found was extraordinary. The jellyfish's DNA contained unique expressions of genes related to repair and rejuvenation, allowing its cells to essentially reprogram themselves. Yet even with all our technology, we still can't fully understand the quiet miracle this tiny animal performs with such simplicity. It doesn't plan it. It doesn't think about it. It just happens, in harmony with the ocean's rhythm. Its life is not about defeating time. It's about surrendering to the natural flow of change and finding eternity within it. There's a lesson hidden here. We, too, are always changing, always beginning again in small ways, shedding old cells, healing, growing, learning. The immortal jellyfish simply shows us what happens when that process never stops. If you close your eyes now, you can almost imagine it. A faint glow beneath the waves, a slow, steady pulse of life continuing quietly in the dark. It doesn't seek the surface or chase the light. It drifts softly, endlessly, in the patient embrace of the sea. Somewhere out there, perhaps at this very moment, a Turritopsis dornii is beginning its cycle again, an adult folding back into youth, time folding it upon itself, the past and future meeting in a single breath. It is not loud, not proud, not even aware of its immortality. It simply exists as it always has, as it always will. And maybe that's the true meaning of its gift. Not endless life as we imagine it, but the endless renewal of being, the ability to start again, to continue, to flow with the great, gentle tide of existence. So the next time you stand by the sea and feel its quiet rhythm, remember that somewhere beneath those waves drifts a creature that has already outlived empires, survived countless tides, and may still be there long after we are gone. A soft, silent witness to time itself. The immortal jellyfish. It began, as many scientific wonders do, with curiosity and a quiet moment of observation. In the late 1980s, a group of researchers working along the coast of Italy noticed something unusual in the tanks of their marine laboratory. The jellyfish they were studying, tiny and unassuming, were not behaving as expected. After reproducing, most jellyfish in captivity would weaken, sink, and fade away. But these little beings did something different. They seemed to be reversing their life cycle, returning to youth instead of approaching death. At first, the scientists thought it was a mistake. Perhaps the water temperature had caused a deformity, or maybe the polyps they were seeing were new offspring. But then, again and again, they witnessed the same quiet transformation. The mature medusae collapsed into still, shapeless lumps, and from those lumps grew healthy, youthful polyps, genetically identical to the adults that had just withered. This was not reproduction. This was reversal. In that moment, the world was introduced to Turritopsis dornii, the jellyfish that could, in theory, live forever. The scientists observing this miracle, led by marine biologist Christian Sommer, began to document the process carefully. They described how, under certain stress conditions, starvation, injury, or old age, the jellyfish initiated a complete biological regression. The tissues transformed, the cells reprogrammed, and life seemed to fold back on itself, like a tide turning at the shore. For years, the discovery remained a quiet curiosity, tucked away in research journals and marine biology discussions. The wider world had not yet heard of this remarkable creature drifting in the Mediterranean and the warm waters of Japan. But among scientists, whispers grew. If a jellyfish could undo its aging, what did that mean for our understanding of life and time? Was immortality, in some form, not just fantasy, but a natural part of biology? The story of Turritopsis dornii slowly spread beyond the walls of laboratories. It began appearing in university lectures, biology textbooks, and scientific conferences, where researchers presented slides of its translucent form, describing in soft amazement how this fragile being seemed to slip out of time's grasp. And soon, the world began to listen. The early research focused on understanding the mechanics of this transformation. Under the microscope, the process appeared delicate, yet deeply ordered, a choreography of cells following an ancient pattern written into the jellyfish's DNA. When the medusa entered stress, its bell would contract, its tentacles retract, and the once active swimmer would settle onto the ocean floor or the side of the tank. There, instead of dying, it would begin to restructure itself. The cells at the base of its bell, specialized mature cells, began transforming into new cell types. This was transdifferentiation in action, a biological process so rare that even advanced animals like humans could not replicate it completely. Scientists compare it to a butterfly turning back into a caterpillar, a metaphor that seemed almost poetic in its impossibility. Yet this jellyfish did it quietly, without effort, as part of its ordinary existence. By the 1990s, researchers in Japan had taken up the study as well, confirming that this was no isolated phenomenon. The process could happen multiple times in the same organism under natural conditions. Each cycle resulted in new medusae, genetically identical to the one before, carrying the same potential for endless repetition. To visualize it is to imagine a circle that never closes, a loop within the ocean's endless flow. The jellyfish grows, reproduces, weakens, then retreats to its beginning, ready to begin again. And all the while, it remains the same being, a traveler moving in circles through the river of time. The more scientists studied it, the more it challenged what we thought we knew about aging. In most life forms, aging is a one-way path. Cells divide, DNA accumulates damage, energy systems slow down, and eventually death arrives. But Turritopsis dohrnii refused to walk that road. Instead, it built a path that turned back on itself, an elegant biological detour around the end. And so, the immortal jellyfish became more than a marine curiosity. It became a symbol of renewal, of resilience, of the gentle persistence of life in its most mysterious form. As research deepened, scientists began to wonder what drives this transformation at the molecular level. Studies revealed that when the jellyfish begins to revert, certain genes responsible for cell repair and stem cell maintenance switch on, while others responsible for aging and decay switch off. This precise orchestration allows the cells to erase their history, to return to a more primitive, flexible state. It's as though the jellyfish carries within it a biological memory of youth, a blueprint for renewal that it can unfold whenever the world becomes too harsh. In this way, Turritopsis dohrnii exists in harmony with uncertainty. It does not fight against stress. It simply begins again. This discovery stirred quiet excitement in the world of medical science. Could studying the immortal jellyfish reveal secrets useful for humans? Could we one day learn how to repair damaged tissues, to reverse cellular aging, to keep our bodies young and adaptable as this tiny creature does? While these dreams remain far away, the jellyfish continues to drift through the sea, performing its miracle in silence, reminding us that nature has already solved problems we have only begun to imagine. Even now, decades after its discovery, the immortal jellyfish continues to fascinate researchers around the world. Laboratories in Japan, Italy, and America keep colonies alive, watching as they cycle through life and rebirth under calm, glowing lights. Scientists record each transformation, knowing that somewhere within those delicate tissues lies a message, perhaps not a promise of eternal life, but a lesson in graceful persistence. And as they watch, somewhere in the stillness of the lab, the jellyfish begins its quiet metamorphosis once more, its soft bell folding, its form retreating into simplicity, its cells rearranging like stars shifting in the night. When the transformation ends, a new life begins, a perfect echo of the one before, endlessly repeating, endlessly renewing through this gentle rhythm. The immortal jellyfish reminds us that perhaps immortality is not about escaping time, but about understanding how to flow within it, softly, patiently, and without fear of returning to beginning once more. Before it became the creature of legend we now call the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii began its journey in the simplest of forms, a tiny drifting larva, almost invisible to the naked eye, carried by the soft currents of the sea. Its beginning is modest, unremarkable even, a small spark of life suspended in the endless blue. Yet within this fragile speck lies one of nature's most extraordinary secrets, the power to begin again forever. The story of the jellyfish's origins takes us far beneath the surface, into the gentle rhythms of the ocean's nursery. Here, sunlight filters down in silver waves, plankton drift lazily, and life unfolds at its own patient pace. In this quiet world, the newly fertilized egg of Turritopsis dohrnii floats freely, waiting for the right moment to transform. It does not yet have the bell shape we recognize. It does not yet pulse with life. For now, it is only potential, a promise waiting to be realized. When conditions are right, the egg hatches into a larva known as a planula. The planula glides softly through the water, guided by gentle cilia, tiny hair-like structures that help it move, almost like whispers pushing it forward. It searches for a safe place, somewhere firm and quiet to call home. A rock, a seashell, perhaps the underside of a coral reef. Once it finds the perfect spot, it settles down and attaches itself, preparing to begin its next stage. In this still moment, the immortal jellyfish's story truly begins. The larva, which once drifted freely, now anchors itself to the seafloor and begins to change, slowly, silently, beautifully. Its cells rearrange, its shape reshapes, and a new form emerges. The polyp. This is the jellyfish's first stable form, the foundation of all that is to come. The polyp resembles a tiny sea anemone, soft and delicate, with tentacles that wave gently in the ocean's current. And though small, it is alive with potential, holding within its tissue the codes for both growth and reversal, the signature of its strange kind of immortality. For a time, the polyp lives quietly, absorbing nutrients, multiplying, and forming small colonies that look like miniature gardens on the ocean floor. Each polyp is capable of budding, a process where it creates tiny copies of itself that eventually detach and float away. These buds will one day become the medusae, the familiar jellyfish that drift gracefully through the sea. But before that moment, the polyp waits, observing the subtle cues of its environment, listening to the soft language of temperature, light, and current. The life of the polyp is not glamorous. It does not move much, nor does it shine like the adult medusa. Yet, in this quiet stillness lies the secret to its strength. The polyp is the anchor of the jellyfish's existence, a timeless stage that can regenerate, divide, and endure. It is here, in this humble beginning, that immortality first takes root. The polyp's cells remain flexible, ready to become something new whenever the world demands it. When the conditions are favorable, when the water warms and food is abundant, the polyp begins to bud off small, disc-shaped segments. These segments, each one alive, separate from the colony and drift into the open sea. Over time, they grow, their edges curling like petals of a translucent flower. They pulse gently, learning to move, to breathe, to live as independent beings. And so begins a medusa stage, the form most of us recognize as a jellyfish. But even now, the polyp remains below, quietly waiting. It does not die after releasing its buds. Instead, it endures, capable of producing more generations again and again. This quiet persistence, this refusal to fade, is what gives Turritopsis dohrnii its enduring rhythm, a rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of the ocean itself. Patient, cyclical, and eternal. To understand the immortal jellyfish's origins is to understand something profound about nature's design. From its very first stages, it carries within it the power to return, to go back to the beginning whenever the path ahead becomes uncertain. This ability, hidden in its earliest form, reveals that immortality is not an afterthought of evolution, but something deeply woven into its being. In its larval and polyp stages, the jellyfish learns to adapt, to rebuild, to transform without fear. The ocean teaches it patience. The currents teach it movement, and the cycle of light and dark teaches it timing. By the time it becomes a Medusa, it already knows a secret that most creatures never discover, that endings are only beginnings seen from another side. Even today, if you dive deep enough in the warm waters of the Mediterranean, you might find these colonies of polyps clinging quietly to stone. They are easy to miss, hidden among coral and sea moss, no larger than a fingernail. Yet from these unassuming structures rise countless generations of jellyfish, each capable of repeating the miracle that began here in silence. The humble origins of Turritopsis dohrnii remind us that greatness often begins unnoticed, that immortality can be born from the smallest, simplest forms of life. It drifts quietly through the sea, unhurried, unchanged, eternal. A tiny reminder that within every ending lies the seed of beginning once more. The transformation from larva to polyp is one of nature's most delicate and mesmerizing performances, a quiet metamorphosis that happens far beneath the waves, unseen by most eyes, yet perfectly choreographed by the soft rhythm of the sea. It begins when the larva, the tiny drifting planula, decides it is time to stop wandering. After floating freely for days, perhaps weeks, guided only by the whispering push of ocean currents, it senses something, a firmness, a shadow, a stillness beneath the light. The planula pauses, hovering just above the ocean floor. Its cilia slow their gentle waving, and for the first time, it begins to descend. The water around it thickens with life. Plankton drifting, grains of sand shifting softly, the murmur of hidden creatures moving through coral. The larva, no bigger than a speck of dust, searches patiently, sensing textures with the surface of its body until it finds the right place. A stone, a shell, perhaps a smooth piece of sea glass. And there, in that quiet moment, it decides this will be home. It settles gently, attaching itself to the surface with a thin, adhesive secretion, as if embracing the world for the very first time. And then it begins to change. Slowly, silently, the soft oval form of the larva flattens against the rock. Cells shift and reorganize, guided by a molecular memory older than time. What was once a drifting traveler begins to root itself. The larva is no longer a wanderer of the sea. It has become part of the ocean floor, a being of stillness, awaiting its rebirth. Inside this transformation lies one of the most beautiful mysteries of life. How something so small, so fragile, can hold such power to reshape itself entirely. The process unfolds over days, sometimes longer, as the larva's cells communicate, sending signals that awaken ancient genes. These genes instruct the body to elongate, to rise upward from the surface, forming a tiny stalk with a crown of soft tentacles. And when at last the change is complete, the polyp is born, delicate, translucent, and anchored firmly to the world below. The polyp's body is simple yet precise. It looks like a miniature flower, its tentacles swaying gently, catching microscopic plankton from the passing currents. It does not wander anymore. It listens, it absorbs, it endures. Through this stillness, it begins to grow. And often, it does not stand alone. Soon, it buds and divides, forming small colonies that resemble underwater meadows, clusters of quiet life that pulse softly with the rhythm of the tide. To the outside world, the transformation from larva to polyp may seem unremarkable, a biological step in the cycle of marine life. But to those who understand its elegance, it is a kind of poetry written in motion. The larva's surrender to stillness, its willingness to root itself, mirrors a lesson hidden deep within nature's wisdom, that growth sometimes begins when movement ends, when drifting gives way to grounding. This stage is not simply a pause in the jellyfish's life. It is preparation. Within the polyp's soft tissues lies the blueprint for everything the jellyfish will become. The medusa, the immortal rebirth, the endless cycles of transformation. All of it begins here, in the quiet body of a creature that learned how to stay still. In the calm darkness of the ocean floor, the polyp thrives, unseen and undisturbed. Its tentacles continue their slow, patient dance, reaching for drifting nourishment, while its inner structure grows stronger. Occasionally, it divides, forming tiny replicas of itself that extend the colony outward, each one connected to the others through invisible threads of living tissue. These colonies can persist for years, even decades, hidden in the shadows of coral and rock, enduring storms, waves, and seasons, a living memory of the larval journey that began it all. Every polyp is a promise waiting to unfold. When the temperature rises or the ocean's chemistry shifts, something remarkable happens. The polyp begins to bud. Tiny discs appear along its stalk, stacked one atop another, like coins of light. Each disc will one day become a jellyfish. But for now, the transformation rests as if the ocean itself is holding its breath. What makes this stage so quietly profound is that it carries within the full circle of life the potential to grow, to retreat, to begin again. When conditions become harsh, the polyp does not perish. It waits. When food becomes scarce, it does not despair, it endures. Its patience is its immortality. In the grand design of the sea, this transformation, from drifting larva to anchored polyp, marks not just a change of form, but a shift in purpose. The larva moves with uncertainty, carried by fate. The polyp, however, learns to listen to the world and respond when it is time. This wisdom, quiet and enduring, forms the first chapter of the immortal jellyfish's eternal story. And so, beneath the shimmering waves, among coral gardens and hidden stones, countless polyps remain, still graceful, waiting for the next whisper of transformation. Each one, a silent keeper of immortality, rooted softly in the ocean's ancient heart, deep beneath the waves, where light begins to fade into soft blue shadows. The polyp waits, patient, rooted, listening to the quiet song of the sea. For weeks, months, sometimes even years, it remains still, content to feed gently, to drift in the rhythm of its own stillness. But when the moment comes, when the temperature rises just enough, when the water carries whispers of plankton and warmth, something awakens within it. The polyp feels a call to change. Inside its translucent body, tiny signals pass from cell to cell, like ripples of light. It is time. The body begins to reshape itself once more, not in haste, but in perfect measure harmony. Along the slender stalk of the polyp, delicate rings begin to form, discs of life, stacked one atop another. These discs shimmer faintly, each one a small world of possibility. This phase, known to scientists as strobilation, is the ocean's own form of quiet artistry, the polyp preparing to give birth to motion. As days pass, the discs grow more defined. They begin to pulse softly, a rhythm that matches the slow heartbeat of the sea. Within each disc, organs begin to form, the faint trace of bell, the early buds of tentacles. The polyp, once a stationary creature, is now dividing itself into a colony of potential wanderers. When the time is right, the uppermost disc breaks free, floating upward, a tiny bell of life rising toward the light. And so, the medusa is born, small, fragile, and radiant, the next form of Turritopsis dohrnii, the jellyfish that will one day challenge our understanding of mortality. The young medusa, often no larger than the head of a pin, begins its first gentle movements in the open water. Its bell contracts and expands with delicate precision, propelling it forward through the still sea. For the first time, It feels a sensation of movement, freedom, buoyancy, the embrace of water carrying it towards sunlight. The transformation from polyp to medusa is complete, and a new chapter of existence unfolds. The medusa's body is a masterpiece of simplicity. It is made of more than 95% water, yet every part of it has purpose. The bell that propels it, the tentacles that capture food, and the nerve net that allows it to sense and respond to the world around it. Despite having no brain, no heart, and no bones, it navigates its environment with silent grace, guided by light gravity and instinct older than time. As it grows, the medusa feeds on tiny plankton and microscopic creatures drifting in the sea. Its tentacles, fine as silk threads, sting gently, delivering nourishment to sustain its transparent body. And slowly, it becomes stronger, larger, more luminous, a ghostly orb gliding through the underwater twilight. To see this transformation is to witness the ocean's patience rewarded. The stillness of the polyp gives birth to motion. The rooted becomes free. The silent becomes alive with rhythm. The medusa, though small, carries within it the memory of its beginning. The quiet rock, the anchored colony, the gentle patience of the seafloor. It drifts onward, not in search of anything, but simply to be, to live, to float within the eternal conversation between sea and sky. In the life of Turritopsis dohrnii, this transformation is more than just a change of form. It is the bridge between two worlds. The polyp represents stillness, permanence, and endurance. The medusa embodies motion, fragility, and experience. Together, they complete a cycle that has been repeating for millions of years, a soft exchange between rest and wander, between the anchored and the drifting. And yet, within this delicate creature lies a secret unlike any other. While most jellyfish will live, reproduce, and die, the immortal jellyfish carries a hidden gift. When faced with danger, stress, or age, it can return to its beginning. It can sink back to the ocean floor, transform once again into a polyp, and start the cycle anew. Each medusa, though free and fleeting, holds a power of endless return, the gift of never truly ending. In the quiet depths where these transformations unfold, there is no rush, no urgency. The ocean moves in slow time, and the jellyfish follows its rhythm, transforming only when the sea whispers that it is ready. And perhaps that is why its life seems timeless. It is not resisting change. It is flowing with it, surrendering to the natural balance between movement and stillness, between life and renewal. The transformation from polyp to medusa is the ocean's own lullaby, a story of patience rewarded, of change embraced, of beginnings that never fade into endings. And as the young medusa drifts upward into the dim light, its translucent bell catching the soft shimmer of dawn, it becomes a living reminder that life, in all its forms, is a dance of transformation, quiet, endless, and beautifully complete. In the vast stillness of the ocean, where moonlight ripples like liquid glass, the story of Turritopsis dohrnii takes an unexpected turn. Most creatures of the sea live by the same law. They are born, they grow, they age, and one day they return to the deep in silence. But this tiny jellyfish, barely the size of a fingernail, has found another way. It has written its own rule in the language of biology, a way to begin again, to turn back time, to refuse the final whisper of aging. When a medusa of Turritopsis dohrnii is injured, starved, or nearing the end of its life, something remarkable happens. Instead of fading, it surrenders completely. Its bell contracts, its tentacles withdraw, and it slowly sinks to the seafloor. But this descent is not an end. It is a return. As it settles upon the sand, its body begins to dissolve its own structure, cells losing their specialized forms. The jellyfish, once a graceful swimmer, becomes again a cluster of living cells, soft and undefined, the beginning of life repeating itself. Then, from this quiet pool of potential, new life begins to emerge. The cells reorganize, forming the base of a polyp, the same anchored stage that once gave birth to Medusa. Within days, tiny stalks rise again, each ready to grow, to divide, to send new medusae drifting upward into the light. The adult jellyfish has transformed itself back into its youthful beginning. It has reversed time. It has, in the simplest, quietest way, achieved something that no human or creature truly has: biological immortality. Scientists call this process transdifferentiation, a rare and extraordinary ability. In most living beings, once a cell has taken on its role as a nerve, a muscle, a skin, it cannot become anything else. But in Turritopsis dohrnii, the rules are more fluid, more forgiving. Its cells can transform from one type to another, reshaping themselves entirely. A nerve cell may become a muscle cell. A reproductive cell may become skin. The boundaries between what was and what could be simply dissolve. This ability is not just survival. It is renewal, a cycle of rebirth that can, in theory, continue forever. As long as a jellyfish escapes predators and disease, it can reset its life endlessly. Each transformation, each return to youth, erases the marks of time, as though aging itself were only a passing illusion. It is as if the jellyfish carries within it a quiet knowledge that life is not a straight line, but a circle, that endings are simply invitations to begin again. In the still world beneath the waves, this lesson plays out not with sound or speech, but through gentle transformation. The immortal jellyfish drifts, changes, and returns over and over like the ocean tides themselves. And yet, despite this power, the jellyfish does not rule the sea. It remains fragile, easily harmed, small enough to fit upon a fingertip. Its immortality is not about dominance or control, but about surrender. It yields completely to change, and in doing so, it survives. To imagine this cycle is to glimpse the poetry hidden in science. A creature so small, so unassuming, has found a way to evade the great certainty that governs all others. And it has done so not through resistance, but through release, by letting go of what has become and returning to what it once was. The more we study it, the more profound its lesson seems. Its cells do not fight aging. They accept it, dissolve it, and rebuild. Its life is not a straight journey from youth to death, but a soft, spiraling dance between stages, from polyp to Medusa, from Medusa to polyp. Again and again, it reminds us that nature's true power often lies in humility, in the willingness to change completely when the moment demands it. In the dark depths where no one watches, this tiny being performs its quiet miracle. It has no eyes to see itself, no mind to marvel, yet it enacts one of the most mysterious processes on Earth. The immortal jellyfish is not a myth or a fantasy. It is a truth that drifts through the oceans of our planet, a living paradox of time, change, and eternity. And as it glides gently through the water, glowing faintly in the soft shimmer of the deep, we are left with thought. Perhaps immortality does not mean escaping death, but understanding how to become new again. In the soft hush of the ocean, beneath layers of moonlit ripples, the immortal jellyfish carries within its cells a secret that feels almost impossible: the power to transform completely, to change identity, purpose, and form. Scientists have given this process a delicate name: transdifferentiation, a word that, even when whispered, sounds like transformation wrapped in mystery. Transdifferentiation means that a cell, one that has already chosen what it will be, can choose again. In most animals, Cells are locked into their destinies. Once a skin cell becomes skin, it stays that way forever. Once a nerve cell forms, it never forgets its path. But in Turritopsis dohrnii, those boundaries blur. The cell's memory of its past fades, and it begins to act as though it were young again, full of possibility. When scientists first observed this, they were astonished. Under the microscope, the jellyfish's tissue seemed to melt, its specialized cells losing shape and function. Then quietly, those same cells began to reorganize. Some became the simple building blocks of polyp, the juvenile stage of the jellyfish. It was as if time had folded back on itself. Life had reversed its course, following a secret script written into its DNA, one that most species have long forgotten how to read. This single act, a cell changing its role, is one of nature's most profound mysteries. It defies what we once thought life could do. It reminds us that aging, decay, and identity are not fixed walls, but flexible threads woven and rewoven by nature's patient hands. As scientists studied this more deeply, they realized transdifferentiation is not unique to the immortal jellyfish, but nowhere else is it so perfectly complete. Some creatures, like salamanders, can regrow lost limbs by transforming nearby cells into new types. Starfish can regenerate whole arms in much the same way. Yet, Turritopsis dohrnii does not just regrow a part, it regrows itself entirely. Every cell in its body participates in the rebirth. It's as if every piece of it remembers how to start again. This remarkable process may hold clues to the deepest questions in biology. If we could understand how the jellyfish reprograms its cells, we might uncover new ways to heal, to reverse damage, even a slow aging in our own species. Scientists have tried to trace the molecular signals, tiny chemical messengers that tell a cell when to change. They found genes that switch on and off, proteins that dissolve old structures, and pathways that mimic the earliest stages of development. But even with all our instruments, the full picture remains elusive. The jellyfish keeps some of its secrets hidden. Perhaps it is not meant to be understood fully, only admired. Its transformations are so smooth, so natural, that they almost seem more like meditation than mechanics. The ocean itself might be teaching this creature how to let go, how to dissolve, and how to begin again. In the quiet corners of marine laboratories, under the soft glow of microscopes, researchers watch these changes unfold. Cells shifting identities like a slow dream. They note how some parts of the jellyfish regress, how others rebuild, and how the whole process happens without chaos. It is ordered, rhythmic, almost peaceful. Transdifferentiation, in this sense, is not violence but harmony, the ultimate expression of balance between destruction and creation. To imagine that this process happens naturally, endlessly, in the dark waters of the sea, is to glimpse nature's artistry at its finest. The immortal jellyfish is not simply defying death. It is redefining what life means. It shows us that life is not bound by one shape, one direction, one story. It can circle back, soften, and start anew. And perhaps, hidden within this gentle cycle, lies a message for us too, that renewal is possible, that change is not the end but a return to simplicity. The jellyfish does not cling to what it was. It embraces what it can become. That is a quiet wisdom of transdifferentiation, a whisper from the deep that life, in its truest form, is fluid, patient, and endlessly creative. In the quiet depths of the ocean, life moves in rhythms subtle and unseen. For most creatures, stress is a signal of danger, a warning that life may be at risk. A sudden drop in temperature, scarcity of food, or the threat of injury can push animals to flee, hide, or adapt in ways that ensure survival. But for the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dornii. Stress plays a more unusual role. It becomes a doorway to renewal, a gentle invitation to begin again. When Medusa encounters harsh conditions, something remarkable occurs. Instead of succumbing to weakness or decay, it initiates a transformation, quietly folding its delicate bell and drawing its tentacles inward. It drifts downward, seeking the calm shelter of the sea floor, where familiar currents are slower and the world seems softer. There, the body begins to dissolve itself at a cellular level. Specialized cells lose their identities, and the jellyfish slowly returns to its polyp stage, its first anchored form. This process is not chaotic or forced. It is an elegant response to the environment, a survival strategy honed over millions of years. The stress acts as a signal, telling the jellyfish that the present moment is not safe for growth as a Medusa. And so, instead of resisting, it surrenders, allowing the current of the ocean to carry it backward into youth. The environment itself becomes a teacher, guiding the jellyfish's remarkable cycle of life, decay, and renewal. The relationship between stress and rejuvenation in Turritopsis dornii is subtle and profound. Not every challenge triggers transformation, and not every environmental cue matters equally. Scientists have observed that factors such as injury, food scarcity, temperature fluctuations, and even overcrowding within colonies can all encourage the Medusa to retreat to the polyp stage. Each instance is an expression of the jellyfish's innate flexibility, its ability to respond dynamically to the world around it. At the microscopic level, stress causes certain genes to activate while others are temporarily silenced. The signals instruct cells to shed their specialized roles, to dissolve and reorganize, effectively erasing the scars of life. Muscle cells may become stem-like again. Reproductive cells may reset, ready to form a new Medusa. Every part of the jellyfish participates in this gentle regression, guided by the quiet wisdom encoded in its DNA. There is a quiet elegance in this adaptation. Where many organisms respond to stress with fear or damage, the immortal jellyfish responds with a kind of calm intelligence, folding itself into a smaller, simpler form, patiently waiting for conditions to improve. The sea itself seems to encourage this behavior, a dialogue between environment and life, a reminder that endings are often beginnings in disguise. The way stress triggers rejuvenation in Turritopsis dornii reminds us that life is not a rigid line, but a series of flowing possibilities. When faced with danger or difficulty, the jellyfish does not panic. It does not cling desperately to its current form. Instead, it retreats gently, embracing the chance to start again. Its immortality is not a defiance of nature. It is a partnership with it. In the calm shadows of coral gardens, the Medusa begins its descent, folding and dissolving in perfect harmony with the ocean. Slowly, cells shift, polyp buds emerge, and life resumes in a form that is simultaneously ancient and new. Stress, rather than ending life, becomes a catalyst for continuation, a gentle nudge from the universe, reminding the jellyfish of an extraordinary gift. And so, in this hidden corner of the sea, we witness a lesson that is both scientific and spiritual. That pressure need not destroy, that challenges can invite renewal, and that life, in its most flexible and patient form, can flow backward and forward endlessly like the tides themselves. The immortal jellyfish teaches us that the world's difficulties, rather than being obstacles, may simply be reminders to pause, transform, and begin again. In the quiet, endless blue of the ocean, the immortal jellyfish carries out a cycle of life unlike any other. For most creatures, life moves forward, like a river flowing from spring to sea. Birth gives way to growth, growth to maturity, maturity to decline, and decline to the inevitable end. But Turritopsis dornii follows a different rhythm. one that flows in both directions, a soft, spiraling loop where endings fold back into beginnings. When a Medusa senses that it cannot continue as it is, it does not struggle or fight. Instead, it drifts downward, curling inward, and allows its body to dissolve into a simple mass of cells. What was once adult, independent, and delicate is transformed into a foundation, a new polyp, ready to root itself upon the ocean floor. In this way, the jellyfish turns life backward, from complex to simple, from mature to young, from fleeting to enduring. This reversal is not hurried. It is deliberate and gentle, like a slow tide washing over the sands, reshaping the shoreline. Each step is precise. Cells lose specialization, structures dissolve, and yet everything remains alive, waiting. From this seemingly humble state, life will rise again. The cycle is complete, yet incomplete, ending only to begin once more. Scientists have marveled at the elegance of this backward flow. Unlike hibernation or regeneration in other animals, the jellyfish does not pause or repair. It rewinds. The Medusa, once capable of drifting freely, becomes a polyp again, anchored, patient, and ready to repeat the process. Each transformation erases the traces of time, almost as if the ocean itself allows the jellyfish to reset its existence, giving it another chance to live, drift, and experience the world. The cycle of life turned backward challenges everything we know about biology. Aging, decay, and death, which are considered universal constants, become flexible, negotiable. In the hidden depths of the sea, where light bends softly and currents whisper, the immortal jellyfish demonstrates that life can be a loop, not a line, a spiral, not a march. It is a gentle reminder that what seems final is often only temporary, that endings may hold the seed of new beginnings, quietly waiting beneath the surface. By observing this cycle, scientists have also glimpsed the resilience embedded in nature. Life is not rigid. It is capable of folding back on itself, bending around challenges, and continuing in forms both old and new. The backward cycle of the jellyfish is a metaphor for the ocean itself. Patient, fluid, and endlessly renewing. To witness this process is to feel the ocean's own heartbeat. The Medusa, collapsing into the soft stillness of cells, embodies patience. The polyp, emerging anew, represents endurance. And together, they create a rhythm that echoes the timeless pulse of life beneath the waves. One moment, the jellyfish drifts freely, delicate and translucent. The next, it rests, anchored and simple. Each transformation is a lullaby of existence, teaching that life need not always move forward to be meaningful. This cycle, turning life backward, is not magic. It is biology, written in the code of one of nature's smallest and most extraordinary creatures. Yet it carries wisdom that extends far beyond the sea. It shows us that even in apparent endings, there is potential. It reminds us that change, surrender, and patience are part of life's rhythm. The immortal jellyfish exists in both directions, forward and backward, young and old, fragile and enduring, a living testament to the quiet, endless possibilities of the natural world. And so, as it drifts once more through the shadowed currents, flowing between stages, folding and unfolding its existence like the gentle waves, we are reminded that life, in its deepest essence, is not bound by time. It is a cycle, infinite and forgiving, and perhaps, in the stillness of the sea, we can feel its lesson echo softly within ourselves. The story of discovery often begins quietly, in the soft hum of a laboratory, with the subtle observation of a creature that refuses to follow the ordinary rules of life. In the late 20th century, researchers studying marine biology in the Mediterranean first noticed something extraordinary. A small translucent jellyfish, drifting in their tanks, appeared to reverse its life cycle, a behavior unlike anything they had ever seen. At first, the scientists were cautious, thinking it might be a mistake, an error in identification, or perhaps a misinterpretation of the polyp stage appearing among the medusae. But repeated observation confirmed what they had suspected. The adult medusae, under stress or natural decline, could transform back into polyps. This was not just a curious anomaly. It was a process unlike any other, a living example of biological rejuvenation, and it demanded careful study. Researchers began meticulously documenting each stage, photographing and noting the smallest movements, the faint contractions of the bell, and the gentle regression of cells. They watched as the jellyfish performed what would soon be recognized as a cycle of immortality. The initial discovery sparked quiet excitement. Laboratory notes filled with sketches, measurements, and observations revealed that this tiny creature could, in controlled conditions, live far beyond what anyone had imagined. Scientists realized that this jellyfish was more than curiosity. It was a window into mysteries of cellular transformation, longevity, and perhaps even the fundamental nature of life itself. To study the immortal jellyfish, researchers cultivated colonies in controlled aquariums, carefully replicating the conditions of the Mediterranean and the warm waters of Japan, where the species was found naturally. They observed how the medusae responded to changes in temperature, salinity, and food availability. They noted the exact moment when stress triggered regression, when the bell collapsed, and when the medusa returned to the polyp stage. Each detail was recorded with meticulous patience, as if nature itself was teaching the scientists how to follow a secret rhythm. Through these experiments, they discovered that the jellyfish could repeat this transformation multiple times, each cycle creating new medusae from the same original lineage. The process, though delicate, was remarkably consistent, and with each observation, the researchers came to understand that the jellyfish's immortality was not magic or exaggeration. It was a natural, reproducible phenomenon encoded in the creature's biology. Laboratories around the world soon joined the study, from Japan to Italy to the United States. Scientists cultured colonies under microscopes, recording cell behavior, identifying genetic pathways, and mapping the process of transdifferentiation. They discovered that the jellyfish's cells could revert to a more primitive, flexible state, and then differentiate anew, creating the polyp and eventually a new medusa. It was as if the jellyfish carried within it a manual for life, written in code that few other species could read. The laboratory studies not only confirmed the jellyfish's unique ability, but also revealed its delicate limitations. In the wild, the jellyfish's immortality is threatened by predators, disease, and environmental hazards. Even in the safety of the lab, careful attention was required to prevent accidental death. Yet the phenomenon itself remained undeniable. Time and again, researchers watched as this tiny creature performed the cycle, shrinking, reforming, and beginning anew, a living demonstration of nature's quiet resilience. Through patient observation, scientists began to see the broader significance. They realized that the immortal jellyfish was teaching a fundamental lesson, that life is not strictly linear, that endings unfold into beginnings, and that the secrets of longevity and cellular flexibility may be hidden in the simplest of forms. Every contraction of the bell, every descent to the polyp stage, and every new medusa emerging was a chapter in an unfolding story of renewal. And so, in laboratories bathed in gentle light, with microscopes capturing the minutest details, the immortal jellyfish revealed itself not only as a wonder of the ocean, but also as a quiet teacher. Its lessons whispered of cycles, patience, and resilience, demonstrating that the boundaries of life and death, age and youth, are not fixed but fluid, like the currents that carry this extraordinary creature through the soft, endless expanse of the sea. Even as we marvel at the immortal jellyfish, It is important to understand a subtle truth. It is not truly immortal in the way we imagine. While Turritopsis dohrnii can reset its life cycle, reverting from medusa to polyp repeatedly, it is still vulnerable to forces beyond its control. Predators, disease, and environmental hazards can end its life, no matter how many times it renews itself. Its immortality is conditional, delicate, and intimately tied to the gentle rhythm of the ocean around it. Yet in laboratory conditions, free from predators and environmental extremes, the jellyfish behaves as though it is ageless. It can repeat the transformation dozens of times, each cycle erasing the effects of time on its body. This is what scientists mean when they call it functionally ageless. It does not accumulate the cellular wear and tear that most organisms experience. Its cells remain youthful, flexible, and capable of returning to an earlier, simpler form. In this sense, the jellyfish appears to defy aging, living in a state that most of life can only imagine. Its seeming immortality reminds us that life is not a single, unbroken line. Age is a process, and in this small, translucent creature, age can be undone. Time, for the immortal jellyfish, is a soft circle rather than a straight path. And yet, even in this miraculous process, reality remains. True immortality, free from all risk, remains beyond reach. Scientists studying the jellyfish have learned that its functional agelessness is both extraordinary and fragile. The medusa can revert to the polyp stage when stressed, injured, or threatened, but if it succumbs to disease or is eaten by a predator, its life ends. In the natural world, survival is never guaranteed. The ocean, with all its beauty, is also a place of quiet peril. The immortal jellyfish's secret only works within the narrow corridor where it can safely perform its transformations. Despite these limitations, its ability to reset its biological clock is remarkable. Unlike humans, whose cells gradually lose the ability to divide and repair, the jellyfish's cells can continually rejuvenate. Transdifferentiation allows its body to start anew repeatedly, effectively erasing the passage of time. In the laboratory, scientists have observed the same individual undergoing multiple cycles of rejuvenation, seemingly without end. It is a living experiment in patience, renewal, and resilience, a natural miracle that teaches us how life can sometimes escape the usual bounds of aging. This distinction between true immortality and functional agelessness is important. The immortal jellyfish is not invincible. It can still be destroyed. Yet within the protected rhythms of the ocean and under the watchful eyes of researchers, it demonstrates that aging can be reversed, that life can be renewed, and that death is not always immediate, even for the tiniest of creatures. To witness this phenomenon is to glimpse the delicate balance of nature. The immortal jellyfish exists on the edge of possibility, straddling the line between vulnerability and remarkable endurance. It is a living paradox, fragile, yet capable of defying the ordinary rules of life. Its functional agelessness is both a marvel and a lesson in humility. Perhaps this is why the jellyfish captures our imagination so completely. It is not truly immortal, but offers a vision of life unbound by the relentless march of time. It teaches that endings are not inevitable, that life can circle back upon itself, and that within the smallest, simplest creatures lie lessons about patience, resilience, and transformation. And so, as the medusa drifts through the ocean, its bell pulsing softly in rhythm with the currents, it reminds us a subtle truth. Immortality may be impossible, but the power to renew, to begin again, and to exist in a state of functional agelessness is one of nature's quietest, most extraordinary gifts. The story of the immortal jellyfish is more than a curiosity of the sea. It carries lessons that ripple far beyond the ocean floor, reaching into the very hard biology. When scientists began to study Turritopsis dohrnii in detail, they realized that its ability to reverse aging and regenerate itself could offer profound insights into life itself, from the tiniest cell to the complexity of entire organisms. At the cellular level, transdifferentiation challenges the way we think about identity. In most animals, cells are bound to their roles, confined to the purpose they were born to serve. But the jellyfish's cells remind us that life is more fluid than we imagined. They reveal that cells can revert, adapt, and become something entirely new, a concept that could one day reshape medicine, regenerative therapies, and our understanding of aging. The implications extend to genetics as well. If the molecular signals that guide the jellyfish's transformations can be understood, they may help unlock the potential for repairing human tissues, regenerating organs, or even slowing age-related decline. Nature, in this small and delicate creature, holds a blueprint for resilience that we are only beginning to decipher. Beyond the laboratory, the immortal jellyfish prompts us to reconsider evolution itself. Life on Earth is often thought of as a linear march. Organisms adapt, reproduce, age, and die. Yet here is a creature that folds that process back upon itself, creating a cycle that repeats indefinitely under the right conditions. It challenges our assumptions about mortality and the limits of biological design. Some scientists even wonder whether traits like these existed more widely in ancient species, perhaps lost over time as evolution favored different survival strategies. The jellyfish may be a remnant of a forgotten genetic flexibility, a living reminder of the many possibilities that life can explore. Its existence encourages us to look at other species with new curiosity, asking whether other forms of rejuvenation, subtle and hidden, may also exist beneath the waves, in the forest, and in the quiet corners of our world. In this sense, the immortal jellyfish is not only a marvel of biology, but a teacher. It invites us to explore, to question, and to reimagine the boundaries of life. It whispers that survival is not only about strength, but about adaptability, patience, and the quiet intelligence of cycles repeated over and over again. The wider biological implications are not limited to medicine or science. They extend into philosophy and understanding of life itself. If nature allows a creature to reset its life, to become young again, and to repeat its cycle, then perhaps the rules of existence are more flexible than we believed. Life may not always be linear, and age may not be an inevitable march. In the hidden rhythm of the ocean, there exists a lesson about resilience, patience, and the endless possibilities of adaptation. By studying the immortal jellyfish, we gain insight into the delicate balance between fragility and endurance, between mortality and renewal. We learn that even the smallest creatures can teach us profound truths about existence. Every polyp, every medusa, every cycle of regression and rebirth is a whisper from the deep, reminding us that nature's designs are more intricate and wondrous than we can ever fully grasp. And so, the immortal jellyfish does more than survive. It inspires, challenges, and illuminates the vast potential of life itself. It carries within its translucent form the promise that biology is not fixed, that life can adapt in unimaginable ways, and that in the quiet corners of the world, extraordinary lessons are waiting softly, patiently, for those willing to observe and listen. Beneath the surface of the sea, a world unfolds in slow, patient rhythm. Currents whisper ancient songs, light filters in soft beams, and life moves in patterns shaped by millennia. The immortal jellyfish is only one of countless examples of the ocean's quiet ingenuity, yet it carries a particularly striking message. In nature, wisdom is often hidden in stillness, patience, and the cycles that repeat quietly beneath the waves. The ocean teaches us that time is relative, not absolute. For creatures like Turritopsis dohrnii, Moments stretch and fold, and life can begin anew in unexpected ways. The water itself seems to guide this process, providing a constant, gentle framework for transformation. Temperature shifts, nutrient flows, and subtle changes in salinity all serve as signals to the living inhabitants of the sea, encouraging them to adapt, survive, and, in the jellyfish's case, to reverse the course of life entirely. This is the ocean's wisdom. Life does not always follow a straight path. Sometimes it loops, sometimes it retreats, sometimes it rests in the quiet before continuing. And in this rhythm, there is a lesson for all who observe, that patience, flexibility, and responsiveness to the environment are as vital as strength, speed, or size. The sea whispers that survival is not always about pushing forward, but about understanding the flow of time, the pulse of the world, and the gentle art of renewal. The timeless nature of the ocean is reflected not only in individual creatures, but in entire ecosystems. Coral gardens grow slowly over centuries, layered one upon another, their delicate forms providing shelter for countless organisms. Forests of kelp sway in synchrony with the tides, their growth and decay part of a balanced cycle. And among all these rhythms, the immortal jellyfish moves with quiet precision, reminding us that life can bend and loop, and that extraordinary strategies can exist where we least expect them. By observing the jellyfish, scientists and dreamers alike have glimpsed the ocean's deeper intelligence. It shows us that life does not have to end in decline. Even within a fragile, seemingly ephemeral being, there can be persistence, regeneration, and resilience. The ocean's wisdom is subtle, embedded in the currents, the cycles, and the creatures that inhabit it. It speaks of endurance not through force, but through patience, of survival not through dominance, but through gentle adaptation. This timeless perspective extends beyond the sea. It invites reflection on our own lives, our own patterns, and the ways we approach change, challenge, and the passage of time. The ocean reminds us that transformation is not just possible. It is natural, rhythmic, and beautiful. While the immortal jellyfish captures our imagination most vividly, it is not alone in nature's subtle art of defying time. Across the oceans, forests, and even microscopic realms, other species exhibit remarkable traits that allow them to live in ways that seem, at least in part, immortal. Some of these creatures do not reverse aging like Turritopsis dohrnii, yet they display lifespans, regeneration, and resilience that challenge our ordinary understanding of life and mortality. Consider the hydra, a tiny freshwater animal, barely a few millimeters long, yet capable of continuous regeneration. Its cells maintain a high level of plasticity, allowing it to repair and replace damaged tissues endlessly. Scientists have observed hydras that seem to live for decades, showing no signs of aging, and able to recover from injuries that would be fatal to other small animals. In this simple organism, we find a quiet echo of the same principle seen in the immortal jellyfish. Flexibility at the cellular level can extend life far beyond expectations. Beyond the water, there are trees that seem to live forever in their own way. The bristlecone pine, for example, can survive for thousands of years, growing slowly, repairing damaged tissues, and enduring extreme conditions. It does not rewind its life like a jellyfish, but its longevity teaches us that immortality can take many forms, not always dramatic, sometimes patient, silent, and steadfast. In the animal kingdom, other remarkable examples emerge. Certain species of lobsters exhibit continuous growth and reproductive capability throughout their lives. Unlike most animals, which slow down with age, lobsters produce an enzyme called telomerase, which repairs DNA sequences and delays cellular aging. While they are not invulnerable to predators or disease, their bodies demonstrate that longevity can sometimes be extended indefinitely through subtle biological mechanisms. Even microscopic creatures, like some types of bacteria, can survive for extraordinarily long periods under favorable conditions. They enter states of dormancy, pause metabolic activity, and emerge again when the environment improves. This form of life may not be visibly immortal, yet reflects the same principle of endurance and renewal that the immortal jellyfish embodies, a quiet, patient survival strategy shaped by evolution over countless millennia. Across all these examples, one sees a pattern. Nature experiments with longevity and resilience in diverse ways. Life, in its infinite variety, seeks methods to persist, to regenerate, and to continue the dance of existence, whether through transdifferentiation, regeneration, dormancy, or slow, patient growth. The immortal jellyfish is extraordinary, but it is part of a much larger story about the possibilities inherent in life itself. Reflecting on these species together, we begin to see a subtle truth. Immortality in nature is rarely absolute. It manifests as strategies that prolong life, enhance resilience, or allow renewal when conditions permit. The hydra, the bristlecone pine, the lobster, and even dormant bacteria each show a facet of life's remarkable adaptability. They remind us that longevity is not a single formula, but a spectrum of possibilities, ranging from the microscopic to the monumental, from the fleeting to the ancient. The immortal jellyfish remains unique in its ability to reverse the entire life cycle, yet shares a common thread with these other species: a deep, patient partnership with nature. Each organism demonstrates that survival is not always about strength or speed, but about adaptation, flexibility, and the capacity to endure, transform, and regenerate. And so, as we watch these creatures, from the smallest jellyfish to the tallest tree, we are invited to wonder, to marvel, and to reflect on the intricate, quiet, and endless ingenuity of life. Nature teaches us, softly and persistently, that the concept of immortality is not always about living forever in a single form, but about participating in cycles, embracing renewal, and enduring the most patient and creative ways possible. As we drift toward the end of our journey through the hidden world of the immortal jellyfish, we pause to reflect on the delicate dance of life and time beneath the sea. Mortality, that quiet certainty that shapes every creature's existence, takes on a different meaning when viewed alongside beings like Turritopsis dohrnii. Here, in the soft currents of the ocean, endings are not always final, and beginnings may follow quietly upon the heels of what seems like the end. The ocean teaches patience. It shows us that life is a rhythm, a cycle that moves gently between states of growth, decline, and renewal. In the immortal jellyfish, we see the soft possibility of bending time, of reversing the course of life, and of experiencing continuity in a world that otherwise insists on progression toward age and decay. Each Medusa that returns to its polyp stage is a lesson in humility and wonder, a reminder that existence is not always linear, and that the natural world is filled with mysteries far beyond human understanding. By contemplating this extraordinary creature, we are invited to consider our own place in the cycles of life. We, too, experience growth, change, and eventual decline, yet even within our limitations, there's beauty and meaning in the journey. The jellyfish, in its silent, patient way, reminds us that life's passage need not be feared, but observed, cherished, and respected. The endless wonder of life beneath the sea stretches beyond a single species. Coral reefs, schools of fish, drifting plankton, and the quiet sway of kelp forests all participate in cycles that are ancient and enduring. They show us resilience, adaptability, and the quiet intelligence of the natural world. When we observe creatures like the immortal jellyfish alongside these ecosystems, we gain perspective. Life's secrets are often subtle, patient, and revealed only to those who take the time to watch, to listen, and to reflect. In these reflections, we begin to see mortality not as a cruel end, but as part of a vast rhythm that includes renewal, transformation, and continuity. The immortal jellyfish is a rare example, but it speaks to a universal truth that life in all its forms carries within it the ability to adapt, survive, and persist in ways that inspire awe. It reminds us that time is not always a straight path, but a circle gently folding upon itself, and that the ocean holds endless lessons in patience, resilience, and renewal. Even as we acknowledge the limits of immortality, we can appreciate the lessons it offers, that life is precious, that moments of transformation are sacred, and that wonder exists in the quietest, smallest, and most unexpected places beneath the waves. As we bring our journey to a close, let us take a moment to honor the gentle wisdom of the sea. The immortal jellyfish, with its delicate translucence and remarkable cycles, offers a soft reminder that life is both fragile and extraordinary. Its lessons whisper to us about the beauty of patience, the power of renewal, and the endless possibilities inherent in the natural world. May we carry these reflections with us, letting the ocean's quiet intelligence inspire a deeper respect for life, for change, and for the cycles that shape our own existence. May the mysteries of the deep remind us that even in endings, there is the seed of new beginnings. And as we leave the serene underwater world, we offer gratitude for the wonder we have witnessed, for the creatures that endure, and for the gentle rhythms that continue unseen beneath the waves. Good night and goodbye.